Good morning. Hi, I think I'm live here. My name is Dr Claire Griffin and I'm just following on this morning from Dr John O'Shea, my colleague. So I'm just going to wait a minute for people to log on and then I might start. Okay, we might start if that's okay. We have a good few people online this morning, which is great, and we can I can forward some of the questions that have been asked during the week. So to start, my name is Dr Claire Griffin. I'm a lecturer in educational and developmental psychology at Mary Immaculate College, and I'm also programme leader of the Bachelor of Education in Education and Psychology programme. So it's more locally known as the BA and Psych programme, but the full title has BA in Education and Psychology. So what is the programme? It's a dual degree programme. So when you're studying the programme, you're studying primary school teaching, but you're also concurrently studying a degree in psychology. So graduates of our programme finish with a professional qualification in primary school teaching, but they also complete with a degree in psychology. And this degree in psychology is the same as any degree that would be received by anyone in any other institution in Ireland. So it's a degree that is accredited by the Psychological Society of Ireland. So it's a really sought after programme. We have roughly between 30 and 40 students on our programme every year, and it's an exciting programme because, as I said, you have your degree in teaching, but you also have your degree in psychology, and you're doing these in parallel. So how does that work? Well, for the main part, what you have is our students on our programme at times are integrated with students on the BEd programme. So they're sitting in on lectures with students on the BEd programme. Then when they're doing their psychology lectures, they're also integrated with students who are undertaking BA psychology. So they're integrated with those students, and then at times they're fully on their own as a class group, so 30 or 40 of them together. So yes, you get to mix with your BEd friends and colleagues. You equally are mixing with BA psychology students, and then you have time as a group on your own as well. So it's a very sought after programme in the college. The points last year were 554 points. You can see them on the webpage. They were the minimum points in 2019. Obviously, we don't know where the points will be at this year, but I imagine they will be somewhere around the same, depending on demand. Demand will dictate where the points are at, but it's generally a very sought after programme. It's a very highly recognised programme. Graduates of our programme have lots of options when they finish. So they finish with a degree in primary school teaching, which is accredited by the Teaching Council of Ireland, the same as the BEd programme that my colleague John O'Shea just talked about there. So graduates of our programme can straight away go and apply to be primary school teachers. Graduates also have the option to do further study in the field of psychology. So any degree in psychology that you get in any institution in Ireland is a degree in psychology that, generally speaking, you need to do further study in to progress in the field of psychology. So you have the option to engage in study in any field of psychology when you finish. So it's not just educational psychology, it's any field. So if you finish the degree and you think, I love sports psychology, or I love health psychology, or clinical psychology, you have the option to go on and do postgraduate studies in any of those fields in any institution in Ireland or beyond. However, the programme is often very popular for people who have a thought that they might like to do educational psychology, because you have the benefit of having studied education through your teaching qualification over the 4 years. So that brings you on that path nicely. A lot of people ask, well then how do you get into educational psychology? And if you want to look at the MIC webpage into our Professional Doctorate in Educational and Psychology programme, Professional Doctorate in Educational and Child Psychology programme, if you look at that, it's a 3-year professional doctorate programme. And so to do that qualification, for anyone who wants to enter into that programme, you must have a degree in psychology and you must have a minimum qualification of a 2-1 in psychology, but you also have to have gotten a minimum of 2 years practical experience. So for many graduates of our programme, they finish the BA and psychology program, and they decide maybe that they're going to teach for a number of years. And many people begin teaching and they love teaching and they stay teaching. For others, they teach for a number of years and then they think, I'd like to do something more with the psychology that I studied, and they decide that they might go down some path in psychology. And if it's the path of educational psychology that they want to go down, they then can apply back to MIC or to other institutions to look into the field of educational psychology. But as I said, you must get a minimum of 2 years practical experience, and the entry requirements for that doctorate programme are available on the MIC website if you just look up the Doctorate in Educational and Child Psychology programme. So that's the career path. As I say, you finish with your primary school teaching qualification, you finish with a degree in psychology, which is accredited by the PSI, the Psychological Society of Ireland, and from that then you have lots of options. So your main option that people generally take when they finish the 4-year programme is they go in and they work as a primary school teacher. But remember, you also have that degree in psychology, so if you wish to do any further study in that area, those avenues are left open to you. So at the moment, we have graduates of our programme working in lots of different fields. We have some working as primary teachers, we have some who have gone back and done additional work training in psychology and who are working as educational psychologists. We have some who are working as lecturers. We have others who have decided to go down different pathways, so maybe have gone down the areas of play therapy and done postgraduate qualifications in those areas. So there's lots of options that you can think of after your degree, but the main thing is that you know when you finish you have the 2 degrees finished, so it's a dual degree programme. So the kind of questions that have been coming in during the week that I might discuss are the challenges of the programme. So is it a challenging programme? Yes. You are doing the 2 degrees at once, so it's a busy programme, but it's a very supported programme. As I said, you are studying alongside your BA colleagues, you're studying with your BA psychology colleagues, and then you also have smaller tutorial groups. So students are very supported, but they're also, encouraged to be quite autonomous in their study as well. And there's lots of peer support in the class group. Students often are, grouped together for group assignments or for group work. And because of that, you get to know your classmates very well. And there's generally good support network within the classroom. It's challenging because you are doing the programmes together, but it's doable. Our retention rate is extremely high. Students, progress from one year to the other, and I, as programme leader, am there to support students where necessary, and alongside all of my colleagues in MIC. It's a very supportive college, so if you're, feel you're running into difficulty, there's lots of people you can turn to. But in general, our students would talk about that it's a challenging, but it's a very enjoyable programme that they do. So that's one of the questions that came in. Some of the other questions, just looking. Yeah, some of the questions people have asked, how long more do you need to study if you want to go on with the psychology? And obviously that depends on what you choose. As I said, if you want to do educational psychology, you must get practical experience first. It can be in the field of education or in the field of psychology, but you must get a minimum of 2 years practical experience before you go on and do postgraduate studies. For some of our students, they decide when they finish the 4-year BA and psychology programme that they may not want to continue with primary school teaching, and they may go straight into postgraduate qualifications in psychology, in other fields of psychology. So it might be developmental psychology, for example, or neuropsychology. So lots of different options out there. Some of our graduates go to the UK to do that, or they stay in Ireland and they do that. So there's lots of options that you can do following the programme. And if you want to put in some questions, I'd be very happy to take some of them. So yeah, the kind of careers our graduates are in now. So the majority would be in primary school teaching, but often they would go elsewhere. Educational psychology, lecturing, trying to think of other options. We've had people who've gone down the research route. So they've gone and done PhDs and they've stayed in the whole field of academia, that they've really liked academia and they've stayed there. And then others have gone into other avenues of psychology, so more applied, be it sports psychology or health psychology, We have some who are lecturing in UL, some who are lecturing in Maynooth. We've obviously some. I originally did the BA in psychology program myself, and trained to be an educational psychologist, and ended up coming back to lecture in MIC. So yeah, there's plenty of options when you finish. As I say, your degree in psychology that you would get from the BA in psychology degree leaves every avenue open for you, as if you had studied psychology in any other college in Ireland, because it's accredited by the PSI. So other questions there. Okay, so what's the difference between the BA and psychology compared to the normal BA with a specialism in psychology? Okay, so in MIC, you can do the BA in psychology, which is the dual degree program, or you can do the BA program, which my colleague Dr. John O'Shea has just discussed. But when you do the BA program, you can't do a specialism in psychology. You can do a specialism in lots of other curricular areas, but there isn't a specialism in psychology. So the BA in psychology is coming out with the dual degree, while as the BA program, there isn't a specialism in psychology that you can do. A question there, if you study the normal BA, would it be difficult to get into educational psychology later? Yeah, an interesting question. So if you look up the entry requirements to get into postgraduate study in educational psychology, and this is at MIC and other institutions in Ireland and beyond, you must have a degree in psychology, and you must have a minimum of a 2-1 in a psychology degree. And you can see those entry requirements on the MIC webpage under the Doctorate in Educational and Child Psychology programme. So if you've done the BEd and you didn't do the BEd in psychology, and long term then you think, I'd like to do educational psychology, you will have to go back and do a degree in psychology at some stage. Now there are options to do that in a number of colleges in Ireland after your BEd, but you can't go from the BEd programme into educational psychology unless you get a degree in psychology at some stage. So that's to answer that. Is it necessary to have a master's before applying for the 3-year doctorate? Good question. So at the moment, the entry requirements for our 3-year doctorate do not stipulate that you have to have a master's. However, a lot of the applicants to the 3-year doctorate may have postgraduate qualifications. So some of them may have gone on and done postgraduate diplomas, or they may have gone on and done masters in the interim. So while they're getting their professional experience, be it in education or in psychology, they may also do some additional studies in postgraduate certificates, diplomas, or in masters before applying to the 3-year doctorate. As I say, it's not an entry requirement as of yet, so keep an eye on that doctorate programme webpage on the MIC website. It's not a requirement, but it's obviously additional study is always deemed preferential, but it's not necessary as of yet. How many hours a week does the BEd in psychology entail? So you're talking, similar to the BEd programme, it's a minimum of about 28 hours. Sometimes, depending on the semester, it can be more than 30 hours per week. So you're timetabled really from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and you will have breaks scheduled in between. But it's a full-time honours degree programme, so you're expected to be, in MIC on site doing it. Obviously, this current year coming due to COVID-19, the way in which the programme will be delivered will have to be reflected the same way as all colleges in Ireland are going to be the same. We imagine there will be some or a strong online element, but that has yet to be decided based on the pandemic. But in terms of the weekly hours, you need to know that you will be scheduled, similar to the BEd programme, you're going to be scheduled from your 9 to 5 with breaks in between Monday to Friday. So you're talking around the 30-hour mark. Some semesters slightly more, some semesters a little bit less. Okay, some other questions that came through there. Any laptop we recommend? I wouldn't go down the idea of recommending this. I imagine, going and talking to any computer shop will support you there. Or if you want to even drop a line to admissions in MIC, they might be able to see if there's any advice coming from that. But on a personal level, I wouldn't advise there. I don't want to set you wrong. Do you get to study the same elective modules as the BEd programme? A really interesting question. Okay, so with the BEd, in the BA and Psychology programme, all of the core tenets of the programme, so the main components of the BA programme, are the very same between the BA and the BA and Psychology. However, we don't have the option of electives on the BA and Psychology programme the way it is on the BA programme, because the programme would become far too busy for the BA and Psychology programme, because you're doing that degree in psychology alongside it. So we don't have the electives. However, you are still getting all the core components of the BA programme, and it's accredited by the Teaching Council of Ireland. So that you don't need to fear about that. But in terms of electives, you will study all the pedagogical areas. So you will study the teaching of maths, the teaching of Irish, English, music, art, all of those areas, PE, etc., etc. But when it comes to doing electives or specialisms, that isn't available on the BA and Psychology programme, because it would become unwieldy if we had all of those options as well. Another question: to become a psychologist, do you have to do further education after this programme? Yes, so I've just said that when you finish the BA and Psychology programme, you have a degree in psychology. The same as any college in Ireland that offers a degree in psychology that's accredited by the Psychological Society of Ireland. So we have that degree, and then you need to do postgraduate studies with that psychology degree to be able to use it in the future. Are there conversion courses for psychology, or is it necessary to do a full degree in psychology before applying for the doctorate? Okay, good question. You need to do a full degree in psychology before applying for the doctorate, but because you will have I presume you're talking about here if you're a BA programme. Is that what you're asking? So if you're a BA student, you do the BA programme, not the BA in psychology, and then you want to go on and do further psychology. Is that your question, Roisin? Perhaps you might want to clarify that. I just answered the way I understand it. So if you've done the BA programme, not BA psychology, if you've done BA and afterwards you decide you want to study psychology, there are options in Ireland to do accelerated psychology courses where you can do them full-time over a 2-year programme. So you wouldn't have to go back to college for another full-time of 4 years. There are options to do an accelerated psychology degree in 2 years after your BA programme. Then you would still have to go and get practical experience before you could then apply for things like the doctorate in educational psychology or other fields of psychology if it wasn't educational psychology you were seeking. So that's the beauty of the BA and Psychology programme. You're doing both degrees at once. You're doing your BA degree and you're doing your psychology degree. So when you finish, both avenues are open to you. Okay, what other questions have we? So is there an option, sorry now after putting that on the screen. Okay, so is there an option, I'll bring that back up, for Erasmus or international study in the BA and Psychology programme? Good question. So at the moment, there isn't an option to take a semester abroad with the BA and Psychology programme. The reason is because you are studying your psychology degree alongside the students who are taking a BA, a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology. So we can't let you go abroad because you would miss all of your psychology modules as well. However, at the moment, we are linking up with a number of international colleges with the hope that in the future we will have maybe summer school options. So you might be able to go out for, let's say, a 2 or a 3 week period, maybe around June time, to spend 2 or 3 weeks in a college abroad, you know, looking at how they teach psychology or looking at how they look at education modules, etc. But at the moment, we don't have that option. However, we do have a number of our students who, during their 4 years, take options where they go abroad over the summer and they might, you know, affiliate with some sort of psychological laboratory or something like that, but it's not organised by the college. But those options are there if you wanted to do that yourself. But as I say, it's not organised by the college, but it is our hope in the future that we may have options of summer schools. But your 4 years, you know, you're in Mary I studying, you're in MIC studying. You do have that semester, the 4th year, So in your autumn semester of 4th year, you are full-time out on school placement, the very same as the BA students. So that second last semester, you're out fully, and then for your final semester, you come back to MIC, and during that final semester, you undertake an undergraduate dissertation in psychology. So you are taking a piece of research and you're doing it as a thesis at an undergraduate level in your final semester, and it's a really exciting piece of work. A lot of our graduates have done extremely interesting pieces of research when they do those, and they have managed to present those pieces of research at the Psychological Society of Ireland Student Congress. We have had a number, including this year, last year and the previous year, we've had winners of the PSI Student Congress. So students that have undertaken the BA in Psychology programme have presented their research at that PSI Student Congress, and they have won the overall prize. So we've had extremely positive feedback. We've had students using that research to go on and present at the Psychological Society of Ireland National Conference, which takes place every year in November. We've had students who have entered some of their research into the undergraduate global competition, where it's an essay competition that they've entered, and we've also had students who've been highly commended, shortlisted, and who've won that global prize based on their research. So students of our programme really use their research from psychology and from education in really positive ways, and we've had a lot of very strong success of our students. It's a really highly sought after programme, and we have huge recognition nationally for this programme, where, you know, a lot of students really want this programme. Students travel from every side of the country. We have students from Donegal, from Dublin, from West Cork, from Kerry, from Mayo, you name it. We have students travelling to MIC for this programme. And as I say, graduates of our programme are really well sought after, because they've engaged in a lot of research, they've engaged in a lot of study, and they have their BA qualification and their degree in psychology, so they have a lot to offer. And I suppose just to highlight, in your final semester in MIC, you have the option of undertaking 1 or 2 electives in psychology. So you can choose what areas you might be most interested in. So students often take things like health psychology, or abnormal psychology, or different areas that they might have an interest in. Students also in that final semester undertake areas such as developmental psychology and educational psychology. So they would be learning about child development, about special educational needs, about the work of an educational psychologist, about cutting edge trends in educational psychology. So they're learning a lot of these things, and going to a teaching interview, they have a lot of that to offer as well, which is really good. As I say, you are doing a general degree in psychology, so it's really worth looking at the MIC webpage to have a sense of what kind of modules in psychology you would be undertaking. But you undertake everything, cognitive psychology, research methods, health psychology. There's lots and lots of different options. Social psychology, what else have we? Developmental psychology, lots and lots of different options that you will be learning over your 4 years. So it's a very broad degree that gives you, a taste of different areas. I'm going to have a look at some of the other questions that have come in. So a question there: apart from having a minimum 2-1 in psychology and 2 years experience, this student is asking in terms of the doctorate in educational and psychology programme, should you undertake voluntary work to make you a better applicant for the 3-year doctorate? Yes, that would be preferential. What I'd advise in this scenario would be to have a look at the Doctorate in Educational and Child Psychology programme webpage. There's a frequently asked questions section on that, and it'll give you a huge amount of information on it. And then if you have further questions, there's one of our colleagues, there's an email address that you can send direct questions related to that programme. I suppose I don't want to go too much into that doctorate programme, because my role at the moment here today is just to talk about the BA in Education and Psychology programme. And for graduates of our programme, they have the option to go on and study the Doctorate in Education and Child Psychology programme, but they don't have to. They have lots of other options in education and in psychology as well. Okay, any other questions that you want to send in there? What is there for mature students? Okay, good question. If you have a look on the MIC webpage in relation to the BA in Education and Psychology programme, there's information there for mature applicants, and that will give you more information there. I'm just going to have a look at some of the other questions that came in during the week to see if there's anything that I haven't covered. Just give me 1 minute. I think I've covered most of the points there. I mean, the biggest thing that I think you need to take from what I've said this morning is it's an exciting programme. It's challenging, but it's appropriately challenging for the students that come onto the programme. It's very supportive. You are studying alongside your BA colleagues and you're studying alongside your BA psychology colleagues, and you also are in a small class group of about 30 or 40 students. So as I say, it's very supported. You have your primary school qualification, you have your psychology qualification, which is accredited by the Psychological Society of Ireland, and you have plenty of options available to you when you finish the programme. Some other questions coming in there. Is there a way to transfer from the Education and Psychology programme to the BEd in Education if you find you don't like the psychology aspect? Yes, we have had over the years 1 or 2 students who decide maybe a year or 2 into the programme that maybe the psychology isn't for them. And if that's the case, it's just a matter of coming and talking to those within the college, like myself or Dr. John O'Shea, my colleague. And if that was the case, we would, discuss the option of transferring to the BEd programme. What supports are available? In terms of what? Can you clarify what you're referring to there, Emer, in terms of what supports? I suppose what it is available, we have an academic support unit within the college. So if, for example, you were finding academic writing difficult, that would give you some support there where you can, drop into the service and they would look at your essay writing with you, or look at, tackling an assignment, or, how you need to go about studying for an exam. So those kind of supports are there. We have counselling supports within the college. So if it was a case that you were finding moving to college quite difficult, or if, you had some personal matter that was troubling you, we have counselling services which are all available freely. All of these services are available freely. We have a chaplaincy team within the college, and that's a drop-in service again that you can drop in and get support from the chaplaincy. So there's lots of different options between counselling, academic support, and then there's loads of clubs and societies within MIC. So if it's in terms of social support, if you were finding it difficult maybe to integrate with a group of friends, there's lots of societies for joining. So again, you'll find that. But the nice thing both about the BEd programme and the BEd in Psychology programme is that you'll always be in a smaller group for tutorials or for smaller classes. So you'll get to know your colleagues and your classmates well, and there's always an element of some sort of group work or group assignments as you go through the programme. So again, that helps you to get to know your colleagues very well. Questions there. You're just saying, just that you said it's support for students that think it's challenging. Yeah, so I think the challenging bit is that you're in a small group, so you get to know your peers, so there's lots of peer support. You also have the option of, as I say, the academic supports, and you have then the social and personal supports like the counselling. So challenging but doable. As I say, all of our students that are on the programme really love it, and they talk very highly of the programme. And as I say, we've had a huge amount of graduates from our programme go on to do extremely exciting things, but also get huge recognition nationally and internationally for their work both as teachers and for their research in psychology. We've had plenty of students who have published research that they've undertaken at undergraduate level, so lots of really exciting things from the programme. If I was a teacher and an ed psychologist, what is the salary? If you were a teacher and an educational psychologist, well, I suppose they're two separate careers, Jack. So in terms of the teacher part, The salary, if you look online, you'll get the salary of a teacher. But if you're an educational psychologist, that's a different profession. And again, the career pathway and the salary scale for an educational psychologist is available freely online. What about financial support? So again, if you are querying about financial support, if you contact Student Services in MIC, they will be able to give you more information in terms of financial support. There are a number of scholarships related to the BA and the BA Psychology programme. If you look on our webpage, there's information about that. But also if you look on the MIC webpage, they will give you information about financial support. It's also worth noting, I'm just getting the times here for you, that we have Aisling Cusack from the Students' Union will be talking tomorrow on Instagram Live at 12:30 p.m. 12:30 p.m. Aisling Cusack on the MIC Live, so she might be able to talk more about those kind of supports that are available for students. And also for anyone who's interested in postgraduate studies, both in relation to the BA programme or the BA in Psychology programme, my colleague Dr Julianne Stack will be talking on Friday at 11 a.m. in relation to postgraduate options in MIC. So again, there are just things to think about. But if you're currently a Leaving Cert student and you're thinking about coming to MIC to do your undergraduate degree, you know, this is kind of both Dr John O'Shea's information in relation to the BEd programme and my information in relation to the BEd in Psychology programme are, you know, the two main talks, and these will be saved online, so you'll be able to go back and relook at them if there was questions that you didn't fully grasp or you need to listen back to. Question there, do students go to the Gaeltacht like the normal BEd, and would a strong Irish be recommended? So yeah, all the core elements of the BEd programme are kept for the BEd in Psychology programme. So yes, students go to the Gaeltacht the very same as the BEd students do as part of the programme. So that happens as normal. Would a strong Irish be recommended? Well, there's minimal qualifications in Irish necessary to come on to the BEd or BEd in Psychology programme. So you need those. In terms of strong Irish, you know, you need Irish to be able to work as a primary school teacher. You'll need Irish to be able to, you know, engage in your school placements and ultimately to be a primary school teacher. However, we have a huge amount of Irish teaching, lectures in Irish and small tutorial groups in Irish to support your progression in Irish throughout the BEd programme and throughout the BEd in Psychology programme. So if it's an area that you feel you need some additional support in and you meet the minimum requirements to come onto the programme, there will be support options, and there's tutorials and additional lectures, you know, throughout the 4 years of the programme to support your progression in Irish, to ensure that when you are a qualified primary school teacher, that your standard of Irish is strong enough to be able to teach children both from infants right up to 6th class. Okay, I think we're coming to an end. If there's any other questions that people want to ask, I think now's the time maybe to put them in. So I'll just give it 1 more minute if there's any other questions that want to come in. I'm not seeing anything yet. Okay, so I think we've come to the end. Thanks to all of you who've stayed with the session. I hope it's been informative. I hope it's given you a real sense of what we've covered. I mean, the main thing that I just want you to hear at the end of this, it's an exciting, it's a challenging, but a really doable programme for those that get onto the programme. And what we're looking at is a BEd qualification and a degree in psychology accredited by the Psychological Society of Ireland, which gives you plenty of options thereafter. If you want any more information, I'd refer you to the MIC website and specifically to the webpage for the BEd in Education and Psychology programme. If you have any additional questions, feel free to drop me an email. My email address is on the MIC webpage. It's Claire, CLAIRE, .Griffin, GRIFFIN, @mic.ul.ie. But otherwise, I'd advise you to go back and relook at the video because I think most of the questions will have been answered. Okay, have a good day. Best of luck. Take care.